Hammond Castle, a fairy tale for grown-ups. Written by Naomi McDougall Jones, directed by Veronica Moonhill. Here is what is important to know. John Hayes Hammond Jr. was an actual person, a brilliant inventor who holds more patents than any American other than Thomas Edison. In the 1920s, Hammond inherited a billion-dollar fortune from his father, and he spent that on many things, including building an enormous Gothic castle on the cliffs of Gloucester, Massachusetts. He lived in it with his wife for a while, then turned it into a museum to himself, which it still is today. You can go visit it. You can even have your wedding there, as long as you book it 2 years in advance. Everything I have just said is true. What I am about to tell you is a fantasy. Our story begins in the year 1959. It is a dark and stormy night, and John Hammond's wife, Irene, has just died.
No!
Hammond races through his castle in despair, pursued closely by the unlikely pairing of Walt Disney and the powerful Catholic Cardinal Cushing.
Jack! Where are you going? The coroner will be here any moment.
No, I'm going to build one.
What?
A spirit phone.
A what?
Edison's been working on one. A device that will open up communication with the dead.
Jack!
That is heresy!
Jack, I think you should come back upstairs.
No. It is possible. Edison believes it's possible, and he's not the only one. But I am the one who will crack it. I will be the one, and no one will ever speak of Edison ever again!
The thing is, our story isn't actually about him. It's about her. We now find ourselves in the present, where a beat-up Honda Civic speeds along the highway. It is being driven quite dangerously by Rebecca. Rebecca is 37. She is a pretty red-headed woman whose face is beginning to show the signs of early middle age. She is an actress, and for the past 15 years, whenever her agent submits her for roles, he describes her as
a spunky redhead with a heart of gold.
Currently, Rebecca is staring ferociously at the road unfolding in front of her, pounding handfuls of M&Ms, looking fairly unkempt. She is also 7 months pregnant.
Pick up. Hey, Chloe, it's Rebecca. I don't know if you got my last messages or texts, but anyway, I'll just leave this here. I am finally moving to LA! I know, I hate LA, but I'm just done with New York, and no one's gonna take me seriously until I'm there, so... Anyway, you've always said that your guest bedroom is open, so I'm hoping it still is. I'm actually on the road there now. I'm taking a small detour up the East Coast, but I will be there in maybe a week, so let me know. Hollywood, baby!
As she hangs up the phone, she grimaces at her own desperation.
Hey, Siri, call my agent. Hey, Damien, it's Rebecca. I am on the road to Los Angeles. Can't wait to see you so soon. And if you want to start setting up meetings, if there's anyone you think I should meet, or any casting calls for a spunky redhead with a heart of gold, or, like dead body number 5, I'm a little cash strapped at the moment, so I will do literally anything. Okay, let me know. Can't wait to hear from you. Hollywood, baby! Hollywood, baby. Jesus Christ.
Rebecca sees the exit for Gloucester, Massachusetts. Taking a deep breath to steady herself, she pulls over into the turn lane. As she does so, the large pile of black trash bags filling the back of the car and containing all her worldly possessions tips over. As she drives into town, every street and shop a place she knows only too well, a meditation CD plays.
Breathe deeply in
and out.
Rebecca hyperventilates.
Tap into your awareness of the present moment experience.
She passes a road sign. Welcome to Gloucester, America's oldest seaport. As Rebecca's breath grows shallower, she gasps for air and grips the steering wheel. Memories of her childhood here surround her. She sees herself at 9 years old, sobbing in the driveway as her mother, Ava, pulls away for good.
Fuck. You.
Shaking off the memory, Rebecca aggressively turns off the meditation. The radio comes on.
A once-in-a-lifetime massive solar storm which will rock the northern hemisphere this Friday. On, get this, the winter solstice. Should be quite a light show, so keep those eyes to the sky.
Rebecca pulls up in a neighborhood of shabby row houses. They were cheaply built 50 years ago, and now it's just depressing. She parks across the street from one of the houses and peers furtively over, noticing with confusion that several Buddha statues are decorating its porch. There is a beat-up old station wagon in the driveway with a faded bumper sticker that reads,
My daughter goes to Juilliard.
The street is quiet. As Rebecca waits, she locates a packet of Cheetos and begins eating ravenously, watching the house. After a while, a light comes on upstairs.
Shit.
The garage door opens. Rebecca frantically tries to lower herself out of view, but her pregnant belly is in the way. She leans back, trying to disappear amidst the trash bags, just as Dave, a white-haired, blue-collar, salt-of-the-earth man in his 60s, rolls a trash bin out to the street. Rebecca watches him, tense, curious, then heaves a sigh of relief as he disappears back inside. Suddenly, the baby inside her kicks sharply and directly into her liver. Ah! Rebecca writhes, clenching her teeth to keep from screaming. When it passes, Rebecca, breathing hard, looks down with dismay at her giant pregnant belly. Grasping for some other sense of herself, she is plunged back to 7 months earlier, where a not pregnant Rebecca is standing in a pretty hot, slinky gold dress in a fancy urban restaurant looking radiant. She picks up a glass of champagne and downs it.
Everyone's been telling me all night how undrinkable that is, but I see that's not true.
Rebecca whirls around to see Zach Martin, smiling mischievously at her. This man is gorgeous, emanating the effortless magnetism of a movie star. After all, he is one.
I'm Zach.
I know.
Are you having a good time?
It's my first studio rap party.
Well, it's not going to be your last.
But maybe you could call my agent and tell him that.
I can tell when someone's got it, and you've got it.
Rebecca blushes more deeply than she'd like to.
I mean, it was one scene.
No, it doesn't matter. That part was nothing on the page. You really did something with it.
Well, I'm always up for a challenge.
Zach grins. Ouch, he's handsome.
Well, at least if I never work again, I can say that Zach Martin hit on me at the Savannah rap party.
I could give you an even better story than that. Hey,
At that moment, Astrid, his girlfriend or fiancé or ex, Rebecca can't remember, appears beside them with the icy poise of a supermodel. After all, she is one.
Baby, Mike is asking for you.
Not missing a beat, Zach smoothly turns his smile to Astrid and puts his arm around her.
let's go find him.
Rebecca watches Astrid lead Zach away. But before they're gone, Zach looks over his shoulder at Rebecca, wanting her. Rebecca's breath catches in her throat. As the memory fades, Rebecca finds herself back in the present. The significantly more disheveled, pregnant Rebecca pulls into an empty parking lot, trying to exhale away her self-loathing. Not entirely wanting to, Rebecca gingerly looks across the street into a dark patch of woods. Girding herself, she heaves out of the car and walks across the road and into the trees. A little ways in, Rebecca locates an old, weathered white memorial cross stuck into the ground. Sinking to her knees, she wipes some of the leaves and dirt, revealing the name Ava on the cross.
Fuck you.
Behind Rebecca, back across the street, a light turns on in the upstairs window of a giant Gothic castle. Rebecca doesn't notice. The next morning, Rebecca sits brushing her teeth on the bumper of her car in the same parking lot. She has slept there. John Petkoff, a 64-year-old man who can best be described as the grown child of Hannibal Lecter and Professor McGonagall, walks with a briefcase across the lot towards the castle.
Morning.
Rebecca is suddenly aware of how untethered she must look. The pregnancy, garbage bags, toothbrushing, and tries to covertly spit out her toothpaste.
Morning.
We don't open until 10.
That's fine.
He observes her curiously. Rebecca's stomach growls audibly. A little while later, Rebecca skulks through the aisles of Market Basket, the kind of hometown grocery where you're almost certain to run into someone you know. Rebecca, trying to shrink into invisibility behind her sunglasses and hat, pauses guiltily in front of a shelf of prenatal vitamins. One label reads,
Gives mom and baby the strength they need.
Rebecca grimaces, but reaches for the bottle, then clocks the price, $31.99, and, thinking of her dwindling bank account, pulls her hand away.
Rebecca?
Rebecca whirls around to find Bronwen, an Earth mother with the long, stringy hair of an aged hippie now in her 70s, beaming, arms outstretched towards her.
Oh, my goddess!
Rebecca's face slackens with dismay.
I didn't know you were in town. Don't you know you're not supposed to swallow the watermelon seeds?
Bronwen's hands are on Rebecca's belly, caressing it before Rebecca can stop her.
My sweet little girl is going to be a mama.
Rebecca spasms as the fetus stomps painfully on an organ. Rebecca uses the moment to pull away.
You okay?
Fine.
Does your papa know you're in town?
No,
What brings you back?
I'm moving to LA. I'm just passing through.
Bronwen stares at her, as though seeing right into her soul. Rebecca looks desperately over at the vitamin shelf.
Oh, you need some of those.
Bronwen scans the vitamin shelf, expertly locating a brand she trusts, and hands the bottle to Rebecca.
Got to make sure that she's smart and strong and talented, just like her mama. And her mama's mama.
I don't know that it's a girl.
She is.
Bronwen beams at Rebecca, who glares at her. Moments later, having escaped to the checkout aisle, Rebecca attempts to casually lose the vitamin bottle in the candy display, while a disinterested teenager scans her breakfast burrito.
Did you want those?
No.
Can I get an item return at checkout too?
Rebecca sees Barbara approaching. Barbara is a 37-year-old with a baby strapped to her front, 2 young children hanging off her arms, and a shopping cart, looking bedraggled but beaming.
Becca?
For a moment, Rebecca isn't sure whether she knows who this is. Then,
Oh my God!
Barb?
I didn't know you were in town.
I didn't know I was going to be.
Rebecca notices Barb's son, Stevie, age 4, who is on the verge of a meltdown.
1 second, Stevie. I hadn't heard that you were pregnant.
Yeah, sorry, it's been hard.
5:32.
Rebecca takes a $10 bill out of her wallet and hands it to him.
Don't worry about it. I'm just so proud of you. We saw you on that detective show last year.
Oh, yeah?
Did you know she was on a TV show? That one with the dead girl.
Oh, really?
It wasn't. I was...
It was. She was on that show. The one in Mississippi. Mom!
All I did was walk on and scream.
Okay.
She screamed 3 times. It was a triple scream.
Thanks.
I wouldn't have thought you were hot enough to be on TV.
She is beautiful. You are beautiful.
Thank you.
So, what are you doing now?
Rebecca waits for death. Outside the market basket, Rebecca wrestles to get the trunk of her car closed. Trash bags popping out every time she tries. Barbara approaches. Rebecca tries to look busy.
Hey, I don't know if you're still going to be around, but I'm having a party on Friday night. There's going to be a big solar storm.
Okay.
It's supposed to be a very powerful celestial event. On the winter solstice, too. And it's a mommy group I'm part of. It's quite a few girls from our year. I'm sure they'd be so excited to see you. I would love to see you.
I think I'll probably be gone by then. But...
Oh, sure. Well, I'll text the information. Same number?
Yep. Okay, well, it was so great to see you.
You know what my mom found the other day? The tape of our 5th grade musical. You were so amazing.
I wasn't, Barb.
Well, we all thought you were. My mother always said, that girl is gonna be a star.
A little while later, Rebecca stands on the porch of the house with the Buddhas. There is no car in the driveway this time, and Rebecca peeks furtively through the window, double-checking that no one is home. Satisfied, Rebecca locates a house key that has been hidden on the top of the door frame, and, steeling herself, goes inside. Rebecca stands uneasily in a shabby living room packed to the gills with kitsch. As she looks around her childhood home, specters of the past there appear in her mind like ghosts. A 35-year-old Dave sits slouched on the couch, a pack of beer beside him, watching television. A blank-eyed Ava drifts up the stairs in a mist of her own despair. Sounds of... Grown Rebecca closes her eyes, pushing the memories from her mind. She goes upstairs and pushes a door open to reveal a large bedroom. The room is untidy, bed unmade, clothes on the floor. Rebecca crosses to a dusty dresser. Amidst the clutter, she finds what she's looking for. A small box containing a diamond ring.
Bingo.
She puts the box hastily in her pocket and leaves. Back in the upstairs hallway, Rebecca walks quickly past a smaller bedroom. A handwritten, glitter-decorated sign on the door reads, Becca. As she makes her way downstairs, she notices a small altar. Many candles, incense, objects, surrounding a photo of Ava Lewis. Unbidden, her mother's voice sounds in Rebecca's mind.
You're so talented, Rebecca.
Shut up.
You're going to take it all the way, right? All the way.
Rebecca scrambles to her feet, desperate to get away, when the baby kicks. This time a particularly painful nerve right at the base of her pelvis.
Becca?
Rebecca turns to find her present-day father, Dave, standing in the doorway. The blood drains out of Rebecca's face as a brutally sincere look of hope flickers on Dave's face.
I was just leaving.
Wait, you don't have to go.
I just came by for...
Wait, is that... Are you...
Yes, I am.
Well, that's... I mean... Wow. Congratulations.
Look, I thought you were... I used the spare key.
Can I make you some tea?
You drink tea now? I'm good, thanks.
Please stay for a while.
I'm actually in a hurry. I am on my way to LA. I'm moving there, so people are expecting me.
Dave looks sadly at her.
Here's your key.
As Rebecca removes the key from her pocket, the ring box slips out and clatters to the floor. They both look at it for an awkward moment.
It's mine.
Yours
She left
if you
it to
want
me.
it. Do you need money?
No, I wanted the ring because I am getting married to the dad.
She gestures to her belly.
Oh, that's great. I'm happy for you, Bex.
She glances down at a text from Barbara.
Info for Friday night.
Okay, well, bye, Dad.
Rebecca walks to her car.
Bex, wait. When's the wedding?
I don't know yet.
Rebecca, I want to see you. I want us to start talking again.
Rebecca flushed. lowers the car window and holds out the house key.
Keep it.
She looks at him with a mixture of anger and shame, then pockets the key.
Becca, can we just...
Rebecca speeds away from him. She drives down windy, tree-lined roads, driving too fast, recklessly. Her mother's voice forces its way into her mind again.
I'm done. Okay, I'm done.
A younger version of her father's voice cascades in too.
Rebecca, get back in the house!
As does her own 9-year-old voice. Slamming on the brakes, Rebecca swerves wildly into the parking lot of Hammond Castle, yanking the car to a stop.
Hey Siri, call Chloe. Hey Siri, call CGA agency. Hey Siri, call Zach.
We're sorry. You have reached a number that has been disconnected or is no longer in service.
Rebecca throws the phone down, fighting back tears. She looks down at her pregnant belly in despair, and a memory floods her mind. 4 months earlier, Rebecca lies on an examination table as a together-looking OBGYN runs an ultrasound wand over her exposed stomach. Rebecca avoids looking at the screen.
Well, I do wish you'd started coming in earlier. With geriatric pregnancies...
Geriatric pregnancy?
That's just the term.
I'm 37, not 80.
The OBGYN smiles patiently.
The baby looks healthy. We should do a chorionic villus sampling or an amniocentesis to make sure there are no chromosomal abnormalities, but you might have gotten lucky.
What if I didn't want to keep it?
Well, you're at 14 weeks, so it's too late for a medication abortion. It would be a procedure, not just a pill. But it's still completely legal at this stage, in this state, and of course it is 100% your decision.
Rebecca sits with this, wretched.
Can I ask what thoughts you're having? Do you want to be a mother?
I'm not sure. I think so.
If I can be honest, if you think you want to be a mother, I'm not saying it's impossible later, but you're already 37. It's going to get harder from here. The longer you wait, the less likely that you'll be able to get pregnant naturally, and IVF is cost prohibitive for most people. And right now you have a very healthy baby as far as we can tell.
Rebecca is weighted down by this information.
Adoption is always a possibility too, if you change your mind as it gets closer. There are thousands of couples waiting for babies to adopt.
Yeah, everything feels just very hard. I thought I'd have more figured out by now.
Nobody ever feels ready to become a mother.
Rebecca pulls herself back into the present and, red-faced, yanks open the car door, hauling herself to standing. As she does, the baby kicks, causing pain to shoot all over her body. She screams, doubling over. Fuck! A nice-looking family of the sort that doesn't truck with that kind of language turn to look at her, startled.
For pity's sake.
The parents hustle their children away from this unhinged woman. Rebecca watches the family go, noticing that they are headed into Hammond Castle. A movement catches her attention, and she sees that there is now a black cat sitting on the hood of her car, flicking its tail and staring at her. After a moment, it gets up and trots off through the parking lot towards the castle. As if in a daze, Rebecca follows. She follows it down some stone steps, across a drawbridge, and through an arched doorway, into the castle where she finds herself in a dimly lit hall, surrounded by a suit of armor, a bejeweled chest, and what appears to be a strange little gift shop. Behind a counter heaped with costume fairy wings and stuffed dragons, the cashier barely looks up from her romance novel.
Welcome to Hammond Castle. Is this your first time?
Yeah, it is. I I grew up here, so I always heard about it, but somehow I
The
never...
cashier does not care about this backstory.
Last tour of the day is starting in the Great Hall.
Rebecca wends her way through a series of hallways, and she can't take everything in fast enough. Every alcove contains some strange and wonderful object. She turns a corner and is startled to see the black cat gazing curiously at her and flicking its tail again. After a moment, the cat gets up and heads, with purpose, down the hallway. Rebecca follows.
Vent of an emergency, please exit over the drawbridge in an orderly fashion. There are no other exits.
Rebecca enters a great hall and sees John Petkoff standing in front of a tour group.
My name is John Petkoff. I've been the curator of this castle for the past 57 years, which of course puts me at the ripe old age of 39. Now, who among you can tell me what John Hayes Hammond Jr. is most remembered for?
The visitors look nervously at one another.
Indeed. Regrettably, few can. Despite his being a brilliant inventor, prolific art collector, unparalleled socialite, and heir to a billion-dollar fortune, the name John Hayes Hammond Jr. has been sadly neglected by the gatekeepers of contemporary notoriety.
The crowd has no idea what he has just said.
Appallingly few people have ever heard of him. Oh!
Looking up, Petkoff catches sight of Rebecca in the doorway and gasps. The tour group turns to look at her, confused, none more so than Rebecca. Petkoff executes an odd little genuflecting bow.
Please, do join us.
Members of the tour group whisper to each other, trying to figure out why Rebecca is special. Is she famous? Mystified and unsettled, Rebecca joins the group.
Which is precisely the injustice we're here to correct today. So, who was John Hayes Hammond Jr.?
The group stands in a room full of diagrams and historical photos.
John Hayes Hammond Jr. was foremost an inventor. He received over 900 patents during his lifetime, the second most of any American, save for Thomas Edison. His advancements in the field of electronic remote control underpin everything from the radio transmitter to the missile guidance system. Not to mention that handy little device you use to change the TV channels.
Wow! Isn't that amazing, Sugar?
But when he wasn't working away at revolutionizing our navigation systems, Mr. Hammond was busy.
The crowd stands in an interior courtyard surrounding a large pool.
Partying like it was 1939. His wild, week-long bacchanalias were highly exclusive affairs. The guest list was a veritable who's who of the day. John Barrymore, Greta Garbo, Stravinsky, Rachmaninoff.
Who are literally any of those people?
Walt Disney.
Oh.
Anyone who was anyone would have died for an invitation. For these luminaries of society, a night at Hammond Castle held the promise of numerous little tricks and jokes, which Hammond built right into the castle's architecture. Such as this staircase we're walking on now, which, as you may be discovering, twists the wrong way, making it likely that anyone who isn't left-handed might easily slip and fall.
The group finds a tourist couple, the wife looking petrified, frozen on one of the steps.
I'm not going any further, Duncan. You can't make me.
It's just a staircase, Muriel. What on earth are you going on about?
It's not just a staircase. I can feel something. I can feel something.
All right, Muriel, let's get you some air.
The husband shuffles his wife back up the stairs, squeezing past the rest of the group.
On to the invention room, shall we?
The group now stands in a room filled in every corner with various scientific and mechanical devices. It is the playroom of an eccentric, rich inventor man.
Mr. Hammond was, of course, a man of science. But, like a surprising number of scientists of his day, Edison included, he was quite fascinated by the paranormal.
Oh my gosh, look at you! When are you due?
None of your business.
Rebecca crosses the room, enchanted by all the strange and curious inventions cluttering the room. In the back of the space, she finds a large, bizarre-looking magnetic device, a series of metal rings big enough for a person to stand in.
Toward the end of his life, Mr. Hammond devoted himself almost entirely to the quest of opening up a line of communication with the spirits of the deceased. Naturally, he never succeeded. As far as we know.
The crowd is growing tired of this weirdo.
And with that, we will have to conclude our tour. On your way out, I do recommend visiting Mr. Hammond's tomb on the grounds. Like the pharaohs of ancient Egypt, Mr. Hammond arranged to be buried at the center of a large pyramid. The castle will close in 30 minutes. Thank you so much for visiting.
Rebecca looks around the room with interest, then returns to examining the large device of metal rings, noticing a platform at the center. Petkoff appears suddenly behind her.
Ah, the spirit phone.
What, this? I don't see any phone. Oh, this is what he was going to use to communicate with the dead?
Yes. Edison was working on one as well. He and Hammond were in a bit of an arms race over it. Very controversial. The Catholic Church wanted it destroyed.
The Catholic Church?
Yes. Mr. Hammond was great friends with the renowned Cardinal Cushing. They agreed about most things, but this was a source of great tension between them.
Weird. Thomas Edison was working on one of these too?
Indeed. Messrs. Edison and Hammond shared a devoted belief in the afterlife. In fact, Mr. Hammond used to say that after his death, he intended to go on living in this castle in the form of a black cat.
Rebecca looks sharply and uneasily over at the cat, which is settled on one of the display cases. There is no indication whether Petkoff or anyone else can see this cat.
Do you think he did?
Well, Hammond was a consummate self-mythologizer. Still, there have been some rather odd...
Like what?
Petkoff looks exaggeratedly over his shoulders to see whether anyone is listening, then leans in close to her.
One time, a little girl fell asleep in the bathroom stall and was briefly locked in the castle after hours. Upon her rescue, she claimed that she quite distinctly heard the sounds of clinking glasses and laughter.
He waggles his fingers spookily. Rebecca can't decide whether or not it's a joke.
Well, I must begin my closing duties. I do hope you'll come and visit us again.
Petkoff winks at her and walks toward the door, then turns back.
You know, Mrs. Hammond was a redhead also.
Petkoff looks Rebecca over appraisingly. She shifts uncomfortably under his gaze.
Bit of a tragic figure she was.
Petkoff smiles, then takes his leave. Rebecca sneaks one last glance around the room, then, skin pricking, exits. Blinking in the sunlight outside, Rebecca slides quickly into her car and puts the key in the ignition. Something catches her, and she is suddenly aware of herself, of the sad little contents of her sad little life filling the car. Trash bags, toothbrush, food wrappers. Her hand hovers over the ignition, but she can't quite bring herself to turn it. A wicked, marvelous idea swelling up in her, she looks back up at the castle.
So sorry. Have to pee. Pregnancy.
The cashier, who had not been looking for an explanation for Rebecca's reappearance, does not look up. Rebecca, giddy, slips quietly into the bathroom, looks around for a hiding place, steps into one of the stalls, and, seating herself on the toilet, manages with some difficulty, maneuvering around her pregnant belly, to prop both feet against the sides of the stall, pulling them out of sight of peering eyes. Thrumming with a mischievous excitement, Rebecca waits in the darkness as the sounds of closing up the castle drift by. At last, the final sound of the front door opening and...
Good night, Mr. Hammond.
Then footsteps out and... The front door closes, a giant lock sliding into place. The castle is quiet and dark. Inside the bathroom stall, Rebecca slides her feet to the floor and sneaks out into the hallway. The baby kicks.
Motherfucker!
Still, Rebecca is delighted. She roams the dark, empty halls. In one alcove, Rebecca finds 2 mannequins in immaculate red brocade king and queen outfits. She runs her hands over the luxurious fabric, reveling in the feeling. In an upstairs bedroom, Rebecca stares with longing at a sumptuous canopy bed. It's roped off, but she climbs beneath the rope and flops down to lie on it, releasing a huge sigh as the pillows engulf her. Rebecca sits bolt upright. Probably it was nothing. Still...
Hello?
Laughing at herself, Rebecca hustles back through the darkened castle to the front door, which she unlocks and opens. Except that, instead of an open doorway, she finds a thick plank of wood. The drawbridge is covering the door. Shit. Rebecca pushes on the drawbridge. It doesn't budge. She throws her weight against it. Nothing. Shit. She looks around for some sort of mechanism to open the drawbridge. There is none. She takes her phone out of her pocket, then sees there's no cell service. Shit. In the gift shop, Rebecca searches around the register for a landline. There isn't one. Rebecca bangs loudly on the drawbridge with her fist.
Hello? Can anyone hear me? Hello?
Rebecca fights to slow her breath, clutching her belly, panicking. She looks up and sees that the black cat is staring at her. They stare at each other. Then, ever so faintly, from the depths of the castle, Rebecca hears... The cat trots off in the direction of the sounds, and Rebecca follows. As they sneak down the hallway, the sounds grow louder. Seeing a wooden club in a holder on the wall, Rebecca grabs it, raising it above her head, and continues towards the sound.
Hello?
A bright white light emanates from the archway of the great hall. Rebecca moves closer and closer until... As she steps into the doorway, she stops in shock, the club clattering to the ground. The Great Hall is full of people wearing incredible glitterati outfits from the 1930s. Shocked, Rebecca scans the crowd. Has she wandered into The Great Gatsby? The guests filling this party are affluent, beautiful, and utterly carefree. Almost in a trance, Rebecca steps into the hall, wending her way through the partygoers. She looks bedraggled, pathetic next to these people. No one even notices her.
Have you laid eyes on the old fox this evening?
Ravishing as always. Ages like a fine champagne.
Each of the guests are schmoozing, drinking, flirting, some animated, some smugly bored. All looking at others, making sure they are being looked at.
This really is the best party. Don't you think it really is the best party?
I think it is. How could it not be?
Rebecca arrives at a pyramid of champagne glasses. A man reaches across her to grab a glass.
And you think that was his best concerto? Rachmaninoff, you always were the greatest Philistine.
And you, Stravinsky, are an overrated hack.
Rebecca, confused, reaches out to touch Rachmaninoff's arm, checking its reality. But before she can touch him...
Don't you think of touching me, you unkept whelp.
Startled, Rebecca yanks her hand back, starting to panic. Up on the balcony, out of sight, A man in a crisply tailored tuxedo stands in darkness, observing the party beneath him. The black cat leaps up onto the banister. He strokes it, watching Rebecca intently. A terrified Rebecca backs quickly away from the champagne table and almost stumbles into a perched-nosed woman.
I beg your pardon.
Oh, for Christ's sake, some people really just have given up.
Have a little dignity, dear.
Rebecca tries to get away, but now the crowd begins to surround her. A nearby snobby woman looks derisively at Rebecca's pregnant body.
It seems we're being visited by a beached whale.
No wedding ring either, I see. Does anyone know who she is?
What is that smell?
And those shoes, ridiculous. And she almost touched me.
Has anybody ever seen her before?
Look at her skin.
Look at your skin.
No, she's right. There's something strange.
Excuse me, but who are you?
The entire room stares at Rebecca, waiting for a response.
I'm so sorry. I'm not entirely sure where I am.
The miserable little thing's got amnesia.
If I were her, I'd want to forget it all, too.
The most glamorous woman, taking pity, sweeps forward and offers her hand.
You're in Hammond Castle, darling. I'm Greta.
Off Rebecca's clear non-recognition.
Garbo.
Oh, hello. It's nice to meet you.
The crowd is aghast. The Rebecca isn't adequately amazed. Up on the balcony, the tuxedoed man watches Rebecca squirm.
I'm sorry, have you actually never heard of Greta Garbo?
Oh, Greta Garbo. Yeah, sure.
She really has got amnesia.
A man steps forward, extending his hand.
John Barrymore. You've no doubt heard of me.
Of course.
He's a famous actor, you dimwit.
I am familiar with Drew's work, of course.
Barrymore is gobsmacked. Rebecca, sensing that the crowd is now very much turning against her, looks desperately around for help. Then...
Wait, are you Walt Disney?
Huh?
The crowd turns, surprised to look over at Walt, wearing a bushy mustache and cardigan.
Yes?
Your movies were my whole childhood. Well, basically everybody's childhood.
Why, thank you.
Walt is surprised, delighted, and grins enormously. The rest of the crowd is disgruntled by this turn of events.
But he made cartoons.
Him?
Rebecca looks around at them all, trying to get her bearings. For the first time, she notices that these people have an odd, flickering, electric quality to them, like a hologram that's not entirely stable.
I'm sorry. Are you all ghosts?
Good gracious! Can you imagine?
This woman is obviously simple.
Simple? She's clearly deranged.
Perhaps she's an escapee from the local sanatorium.
Worse than any of that, she's clearly a nobody.
The guests begin closing in, prodding, menacing Rebecca. She tries to get away, to no avail.
How could she possibly be allowed to be at this party?
Who let her in?
Rebecca, gasping for air, looks around for help, any help, but there is none to be found until... All eyes turn towards John Hayes Hammond Jr., the glitteriest of them all, as he descends from a balcony. He steps into the light, daintily wiping a tear of hilarity from his eye.
Call off the hounds. We don't want a riot now, do we?
The partygoers stare at him in confusion. A few nervously giggle.
My dear guests, you really never do cease to astound me. So quick to turn on those less fortunate than ourselves. But in all seriousness, friends, you really ought to know by now that things in my home are very rarely as they appear.
The crowd parts as Hammond approaches Rebecca.
This lowly creature that stands before you is, in fact,
He steps dangerously close to her.
my guest of honor.
Another one of Hammond's tricks.
Clever old devil.
What's he up to this time?
Hammond gestures for Rebecca to follow him.
If you please.
She does. Hammond steps quickly up a spiral staircase. Rebecca tries to keep up, but is somehow never quite able to catch him, as though he's just turned every corner the moment before she gets to it.
What is your name?
Rebecca.
Is that all?
Lewis, Rebecca Lewis.
And your profession?
I'm an actress.
Are you? Oh, that's very good.
Rebecca turns a corner and almost runs into Hammond, who has turned and is staring at her.
Rebecca Lewis. Miss Rebecca.
Rebecca slowly becomes aware that something is shifting. She looks down and sees that she is now wearing an outfit so beautiful, so glittering, so perfect. She gasps. Her pregnant belly is gone. She runs her hand over her flat stomach, almost limp with relief to feel her body returning to normal.
Miss Lewis, have you ever been the center, the guest of honor, the biggest attraction of the most fabulous party there ever was?
No.
It really is an awful lot of fun.
Hammond turns and walks to the railing of the balcony where he can be seen and heard by the crowd below.
Ladies and gentle wibbles, gentlemen and friends, all of you no doubt are wondering who this strange guest might be. Forgive me, you know I can't resist a good practical joke. But now that I've had my fun, perhaps you'd like to meet her out of disguise. Radiant, isn't she? Yes, my friends, tonight a new star joins our galaxy. It is my unparalleled honor to present to you the most lauded, most awarded, most critically acclaimed actress from hers or any era, her talents brought to their greatest heights in her latest picture.
He looks to her for an answer.
Savannah?
Savannah! Now let us give our warmest welcome to Miss Rebecca Lewis! This evening I hope you'll join me in making Miss Lewis feel very, very welcome.
Hammond toasts Rebecca with the champagne glass he's suddenly holding. He drinks, never taking his eyes off her.
You're blushing.
She is. His lips curl into a smile.
Thank you for stepping in. I think they were about to rip me to shreds.
Oh, barbarians. A lot of them.
Why are you helping me?
Well, after 58 solitary years, here you are. Our very first guest from the other side.
You mean, is everyone here,
Dead? Yes. I wouldn't mention it, though. People can get awfully touchy.
Rebecca suddenly looks out at the party, searching, disturbed.
Is my mother here?
Your mother?
Rebecca scans the crowd urgently.
Oh, I'm afraid my guests from life are here, and only the most famous ones at that, so unless your mother...
No. Is this... Are you real?
Hammond conjures a second champagne glass and holds it out to her.
What do you think?
Rebecca hesitates, then reaches out and takes the glass. It does seem to be real. She takes a sip, holds it in her mouth, shivering with pleasure at the taste, then swallows.
May I make a small recommendation, Miss Lewis?
Okay.
I rather think you might enjoy meeting your fans.
Hammond holds out his hand. Rebecca is nervous to take it. Does he exist? But then she puts her hand in his, and it's solid. A cool sensation washes over her as they touch. And suddenly, Hammond and Rebecca are standing in the middle of the great hall. The dance floor comes alive. In one corner, a fire juggler. In another, a man pours absinthe into people's mouths. Rebecca can't look around fast enough, taking in all that's happening. Hammond drinks in her wonderment with relish. Someone grabs her arm.
Ms. Lewis, it is such an honor.
I don't want to bother you, but I just wanted to say I loved your latest picture.
You imbecile. She knows you haven't seen it.
John Barrymore appears at her side.
A fellow thespian, of course. You were really quite convincing earlier.
Well, years of training.
Perhaps one night we might dust off the old bard. It's been years since I've had anyone decent to perform with.
Greta glares at him.
That would be... Yes, absolutely.
It's a date.
Hands off, Barrymore.
Hammond drags Rebecca off into the crowd. Rebecca and Hammond watch the fire juggler. The juggler looks right at Rebecca as he performs a spectacular trick just for her. She claps, delighted. Rebecca looks on as a group of ghosts use a Ouija board, giggling and shushing one another.
But who are you trying to talk to?
I beg your pardon.
I mean, it doesn't matter. Never mind.
I did warn you about that, didn't I?
Rebecca, enchanted, dances with Walt Disney. Nearby, Hammond does a two-step with a nebbishy man in a cheap-looking suit, Lester. Rebecca watches them.
You've really seen my movies.
Oh, yes. Everybody has.
Goodness.
Don't you know that?
How could I possibly know?
Walt indicates the walls of the castle.
You're our first visitor in half a century. Oh, tell me, have you ever been to Disneyland?
Yes, it's the happiest place on earth.
Hammond and Lester waltz past.
You know, he only got that idea after visiting me here.
It actually is true.
It's enchanting. You left a lot of magic behind in the world.
Hammond and Lester sweep past them again.
What a lovely thing to say.
Well, I'm sure she's overstating it.
Rebecca looks over at Hammond, who pulls Lester into a dip and makes out with him forcefully. Rebecca watches. Coming up for air, Hammond looks back at Rebecca and wipes his lips suggestively. Her face turns scarlet. Rebecca staggers out into the courtyard, dazed, but thrilled as the party continues inside. She sees Greta leaning against a nearby pillar, smoking.
Most of the women here have been waiting half a century for Jack to look at them like that. You're going to have to watch yourself.
Oh, I'm not.
Greta approaches with a feline grace.
Don't be modest. You're clearly extraordinary. Anyone can see that.
Well, I hear that you're a wonderful actress.
Greta raises an eyebrow skeptically. Rebecca blushes, caught.
So, what are you working on at the moment?
Oh, I'm taking some time off, waiting until I find a script I really connect to.
Don't I know it, darling? It's exhausting.
Yes, absolutely.
Greta takes a lazy drag on her cigarette, then offers Rebecca one.
Cigarette?
All right.
Greta hands Rebecca a cigarette and lights it for her. As Rebecca inhales and exhales, she looks up and notices a woman looking down at them from an upper window. Greta follows her gaze.
Irene.
Rebecca looks at Greta, confused.
Mrs. Hammond.
Rebecca looks up at the woman, curious.
She never was much for parties. Mind you, neither was I, but after all this time, she's become downright antisocial, if you ask me.
What's she like?
Irene? Thinks she's better than the rest of us. Hard to imagine why. She was only ever an extremely minor painter.
Rebecca looks up at Irene with curiosity. Irene looks back down at her, unreadable.
They've always had an arrangement, so you needn't worry there.
Oh,
He loves her madly, mind you. Nearly killed him when she died. That's when he began working on the machine.
Rebecca looks sharply at Greta, who feigns having said too much, but has intentionally dropped this bait.
You know, Rebecca, when I was young, someone told me that a woman can be great or she can have children, but she cannot do both. It was the best advice anyone ever gave me.
Rebecca's eyes prick with humiliating tears. She can feel Greta watching her closely.
You're not dead, are you?
I don't think so.
Greta inhales this juicy information, reaches out to touch Rebecca's hand, titillated and a little grossed out by the feeling of her skin.
You didn't recognize my name at first.
Oh, that's not...
And yet people must still know me out there. I mean, look at me. They must.
She holds out her arms. Rebecca doesn't understand.
Surely you've noticed how faded some of them are.
Rebecca looks out at the room full of ghosts, noticing the variations of brightness between them.
It's fame, darling, isn't it? The more people remember us, the more here we seem to be. The less, well, we've lost an awful lot of people altogether. More and more recently.
Greta watches Rebecca closely.
Not Walt, of course.
No.
Not that Jack would ever admit it, but it's obvious, isn't it?
Rebecca looks at Walt and sees that Greta is right. He's substantially more substantial than anyone else in the room. Then she notices an almost equally vibrant man on the other side of the courtyard.
Who's that?
Oh, Roy Jacuzzi.
Who?
All he ever did was invent a bathtub with extra bubbles. Mystifying. The harder thing to explain is why Jack is fading.
Greta looks keenly at Rebecca.
Surely he's more famous than us all.
Rebecca opens her mouth nervously, knowing this is a dangerous question.
Miss Lewis.
Rebecca turns quickly to see Hammond standing in a nearby archway. She notices for the first time that he is, in fact, more faded than many of his guests.
The night is dwindling. It's almost time.
Rebecca follows Hammond down the hallway to the front of the castle. In an alcove, he stops and looks at her.
Did you enjoy yourself?
Yes.
Good. I'm glad.
Hammond moves closer and runs the back of his fingers down her smooth, non-pregnant stomach, as though admiring his work.
You know, something momentous has occurred here tonight.
What?
After all this time, not a soul, but now, at this fateful moment, you.
I don't know what you mean.
I can see it. I can see in you what I'd imagine only a very few can see. Yet.
You don't even know me.
I'd like to.
Rebecca thrills to this, in spite of herself.
Will you come back tomorrow night?
Rebecca hesitates, wanting to say yes ever so badly.
Are you coming to bed?
Rebecca turns and sees Irene standing in the doorway. Up close, she is very beautiful, elegant, aloof.
Yes, darling.
He turns back to Rebecca meaningfully.
I'll bid you good night, then.
Rebecca blushes and nods.
My friends call me Jack, Rebecca. And when we're friends, you can call me Jack, too.
Rebecca laughs as he winks at her, a puckish grin, then follows Irene out of the room.
Are you coming, Cheeks?
In a moment.
Rebecca, startled, turns to see Lester, who she now realizes is so faded that it's hard to see him at all. He is sitting in a chair in the corner, smiling at her kindly. He takes her hand, and that same cool sensation rushes through Rebecca's body.
I do hope we'll see you again.
Lester gets up and heads off after Hammond and Irene. Rebecca stands unmoving, thrumming with excitement and possibility. Dawn breaks in the front hall of Hammond Castle. A few hours later, the drawbridge is lowered. Rebecca, disheveled and pregnant once more, is asleep in the bathroom stall, slowly becomes aware of sounds from the entrance hall.
Good morning, Mr. Hammond, Mrs. Hammond.
Rebecca sneaks out the front door, unseen. She walks along the path outside of the castle. The world is riddled with enchantment now. The morning light, sunshine on her face, salty sea air. She hears the waves crashing and notices a seaside cliff to her right. Standing on the edge of the cliff, Rebecca feels the power of herself when she hears the memory of a summer day when she and her mother played on that beach comes back to her. In the memory, she is 9 years old and kneeling, humming, and giggling into her hand. Little Rebecca is carefully holding a little periwinkle shell between her two fingers and is singing to it.
Twinkle, twinkle, little star.
A long, muscular leg emerges from the shell and begins undulating soulfully, seeming to dance to her singing.
Mama, come here! It's dancing!
Ava walks along the beach towards Rebecca and looks down to see.
That's because even a periwinkle can tell how beautiful your voice is.
Rebecca beams under her mother's compliment. Ava takes the periwinkle out of Rebecca's hand and sets it back in the sand, looking at her seriously.
Do you understand what a good performer you are, Rebecca? You're better than I ever was. You're going to take it all the way, right?
Right.
My little star.
Little Rebecca smiles back at Ava. Grown Rebecca looks down at the beach, feeling triumphant. Later that morning, in the parking lot of Market Basket, Rebecca sits on the bumper of her car, scarfing down another breakfast burrito.
Rebecca Lewis?
Rebecca looks up and is mortified to see 3 fit, dewy-skinned women her age, all in spandex workout attire, rolling their way across the parking lot. Audrey and Gigi are wearing baby Bjorns across their chests. Maria is fully pregnant, but in a hot way. No one should look this good so early in the morning.
Hi!
Rebecca surreptitiously throws the rest of her burrito under the car, wipes her mouth with her hands, tries to quickly fix her hair, and then looks up with a bright smile.
Hi!
The 3 women gather around her excitedly.
I had no idea you were in town.
Oh my God, we're mommy twins.
Oh, yeah. Wow.
When are you due?
7 or 8 weeks.
Gigi shoves her baby at Rebecca.
Meet Braxton. Say hi, Braxy.
Audrey gets in there too with her baby.
This is Michelle. We named her after Michelle Obama. So.
Oh, God. Did you come home to have your baby?
No, I'm just on my way to LA, just passing through.
Still doing the acting thing?
Yep.
That's cool.
Oh my God, my mom texts every time she sees you on television.
Oh.
Which has been like twice.
Oh, what was that last one? You were like screaming.
Mm-hmm.
Have you thought about getting on Broadway? You know, I think a lot of people get their start on Broadway.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a really great idea. Actually, I'm actually in a Zach Martin movie that's about to come out.
Whoa, really?
Yeah.
Oh my God, did you meet him? Is he so beautiful?
This is actually his baby.
Wait, are you serious?
Rebecca shrugs like it's no big thing.
Holy shit.
The women stare at her, unable to decide whether or not she's joking. An almighty burst of pain shoots through Rebecca as the fetus stomps on that one particularly painful nerve so hard that she gasps, screams, doubling over. As she recovers, everyone can see that there is now a wet patch spreading across her crotch.
Pregnancy. Am I right?
Happens to me all the time.
Well, you probably want to change your clothes.
Rebecca slides miserably into her car and looks down at herself. She's a mess. Bleary, bedraggled, very pregnant, and soaking in her own urine. She thinks a minute. No. Well... Rebecca pokes her head cautiously in through the doorway of Dave's house.
Hello?
Rebecca revels in a glorious, scalding hot shower. Rebecca, wrapped in a sheet like a toga, puts her clothes in the washing machine. Rebecca stands in the living room in her sheet toga, unsure what to do, then sinks down onto the couch. Her phone buzzes in her hand. Text from Barbara.
Do you know if you can come to my mommy party on Friday? Will be so fun to have you.
Rebecca puts her face in her hands.
Never have a child, Rebecca.
Rebecca rubs her face, trying to get memories of her mother to stop.
It will destroy your career.
Rebecca rubs her face harder and pulls herself into fetal position, eyes firmly shut. The voice subsides. The gentle hum of the laundry lulls her. She yawns, tries to stay awake, reluctantly gives in to sleep. In her dream, she travels back in time, 3 months earlier. She is standing just outside the fence of a studio lot.
Zach! Zach!
Zach, just inside, turns and sees her. It takes him several beats too long to recognize her, but then he does, smiles widely, and slides past a security guard to come out and see her.
Oh, you came.
He pulls her in for a safely distanced cheek kiss.
Well, that is what you suggested.
No, I know. It's great to see you.
Oh, come on. You're a better actor than that.
He blushes a little. Rebecca looks at the set around them.
This looks wild.
Triton, King of the Sea. I'm working with Scorsese next, though.
Lucky you.
An awkward moment as he doesn't know why she's here.
So, I don't know if you remember that night. I hope you remember that night. I just wanted you to know that I am pregnant.
He snaps to look at her.
I don't expect you to do anything or anything. It felt weird for you not to know.
Are you keeping it?
Oh, I think so. I mean, I'm 37 already, so I haven't decided yet.
Okay. Well,
Mr. Martin!
Zach and Rebecca look back towards the set.
I have to.
Of course.
But I can talk more if you want to wait around.
Yeah. Sure.
Zach gives her arm a non-committal squeeze, then walks back towards the set. When he reaches the security guard, he looks back at Rebecca, says something to the guard, and then walks toward the set without looking back again. The guard walks across the lot towards Rebecca.
Miss, I'm going to need to escort you off the lot.
Oh, thank you. That's very helpful.
Back in the present, Rebecca groggily wakes up and, for a moment, can't figure out where she is. Then the living room of her childhood house comes slowly into focus, as do the smells of cooking coming from the kitchen. Alarmed, caught, Rebecca sits up and looks at the clock. Only 4:07 p.m. Phew. She relaxes a little, then notices that her laundry is neatly folded beside the couch. Then she notices her dad, busily setting the table with a large miscellaneous spread. Waffles, lasagna, chicken strips, a freezer section smorgasbord.
I didn't know what you'd want, so I made everything.
30 minutes later, Rebecca is dressed in her normal clothes again and hungrily devouring a massive pile of grub. Dave watches her with eager nervousness. She takes a huge slug of orange juice, then stops for a breather.
Oh, sorry, what?
No, it's...
No.
No. You go.
You're on your way to L.A.?
Yep.
Is that where your fiancé is?
Huh?
You mentioned...
Oh, right. We're, that was kind of... We're not exactly in touch, per se.
Oh. So is the wedding?
There never was a wedding. I lied. Sorry.
Oh.
Rebecca looks at the clock. 5:30 p.m. Then returns to stuffing her face with food. Dave looks at her more than a little worried.
What's going on, Bex?
Everything's great.
So, you're moving to L.A.?
Mm-hmm. I'm getting a lot of attention right now. It feels like something big is about to happen. I just really need to be out there for auditions and to meet people, so...
Neither of them finds this particularly convincing.
That's great.
Rebecca smiles brightly and keeps eating.
What about the baby?
I'm going to figure that out when I get there.
Okay.
I've basically taken care of myself since I was like 10, so I'm pretty sure I can handle this part without you two.
Dave, stung, closes his eyes, takes a deep, calming breath, then looks back at her with loving compassion. Rebecca watches this with bewilderment and disdain.
What is happening?
Bronwen's been teaching me some techniques to cope with stress.
Bronwen? Like, I have a message from the mothership, Bronwen?
We've been keeping each other company.
Oh.
You know, she's really opened me up.
I definitely don't want to hear about that.
Got me to start feeling my emotions.
I'm sorry, I didn't realize you'd been replaced by an alien.
Dave radiates infinite patience and calm, which significantly irritates Rebecca.
I was not the father I should have been to you after your mother died.
After she killed herself, you mean?
You should work on feeling your emotions, too.
I'm feeling plenty of emotions.
You're about to become a mother.
Maybe I am about to become a mother. I haven't decided yet.
I can imagine that you might be afraid.
Did you know that you're 50% more likely to commit suicide if a family member has? I'm never sure whether that's a statistic or a dare.
I gotta get ready to go. Working the overnight shift.
What time is it?
She looks at the clock. 5:37 p.m. Rebecca rushes to get ready and leave. She pulls on her coat while trying to primp her hair and face a little bit in the hallway mirror.
You have plans tonight?
No, nothing special.
You know, your mom spent her whole life wanting to be an actress. And when that didn't happen, sometimes it's better to find a way to be happy with what you have.
This cuts Rebecca. She stops rushing and looks at him. Rebecca sits on a toilet, feet propped up in the women's bathroom stall of Hammond Castle. The lights are off, and sounds of the castle being closed up for the night drift through.
Good night, Mr. Hammond.
Rebecca eagerly sets her feet down. As she does, she hears... Rebecca pads down the hallway towards the party, but she sees a door off the hallway that's slightly ajar. Candlelight flickers inside. Rebecca tiptoes over and peers through the crack in the door. The room is absolutely filled with easels, each holding a canvas in various stages of completion. Rebecca steps quietly into the room, looking at all the paintings in wonder. They're quite good. She rounds a corner, and there sits Irene, painting a canvas.
Ah, you came back.
I was invited.
Irene, uninterested, turns back to her painting. Rebecca watches her.
I don't think I saw any of your paintings in the castle. Where are they now?
I had them burned upon my death.
Why?
Who knows what people would have done with them?
They could have admired them.
And what good would that have done me?
Irene continues painting, ignoring Rebecca, who settles into looking around at various works.
My husband is a very charming man, is he not?
He is.
You know, Jack always claimed that he built this place as a birthday gift to me. I never said I wanted a castle. It's absurd to live in a castle, and yet here I am as the century rolls by.
You're very lucky, you know, getting to just make your art every day in a castle, surrounded by extraordinary people.
Irene finds this privately amusing.
And are you extraordinary, Rebecca?
I think so. I could be.
Did you know that he turned this place into a museum about himself while we were actually living here?
No.
Toward the end, he used to follow tour groups around in his slippers, trying to listen to what they were saying about him. Everything he ever did was out of a ravenous, starving need for people to remember him. That need consumed his entire life. My life, our deaths. You'd better be careful it doesn't consume yours, too.
Irene, keeper of all my secrets.
At Hammond's look, Rebecca follows him into the hallway, leaving Irene behind.
What secrets did she pour into you?
I guess you'll just have to wait and find out.
Perhaps you'd like to dance.
Hammond offers his hand. She takes it, and suddenly, Hammond and Rebecca stand in the great hall, dressed in sequined, form-fitting, perfect tango outfits. Rebecca's belly is gone. A poppy is nestled in her hair. Around them, other guests are dancing, but they alone are illuminated. Hammond holds out his arms, and Rebecca steps into them.
The tango, Rebecca, has always been considered a dangerous dance.
He begins to lead her.
Highly controversial because of its sexual overtones. In 1913, all the teachers who brought the dance to Paris were banned.
He sends Rebecca into a fancy twirl. She recovers with an impressive tango flourish of her own.
I went to musical theater school. I'm a triple threat.
Hammond and Rebecca's dance evolves into a more complicated, muscular version. They are equally matched. The ghosts around them applaud, thrilled.
Why me? After all this time, you said I'm the first one to cross over?
They dance beautifully, effortlessly.
Because I wanted you. From the second you stepped into the castle, I could see that we were the same.
How are we the same?
Hammond spins her out, then back in again.
I hold over 800 patents, you know.
I heard it was 900.
Somewhere in the vicinity of 800 or 900.
Easy to lose count.
They step into a held pose.
I worked so hard, every day, every night, inventing solutions to every problem I saw, every possibility. Just think of all I did. The stereo, television, remote control radio waves.
You invented all of that?
They glide across the floor.
Tell me truthfully, Rebecca, before coming to this castle, had you even heard my name?
No.
Hammond winces, relishing the pain.
Oh, but you've heard of Edison, Graham Bell, Tesla?
Yes.
I worked with them all. Why them and not me?
Rebecca has no answer to this.
I know the pain you feel. The searing agony of being brilliant and watching less talented, less hardworking people wander into having what we deserve.
Rebecca nods. She feels that pain too.
What is it that you want, Rebecca?
I don't know.
Yes, you do. What do you want?
To be an actress.
What do you want?
I want to matter.
You do matter. Just as I matter.
Hammond sends Rebecca into the lowest dip yet, his face inches from hers.
Let me come back tomorrow night. Let me come back every night.
Hammond grins. Suddenly, Hammond and Rebecca are in his invention room.
What if I could give us both everything we've ever wanted? May I show you something? I'd like to share it with you.
Okay.
Hammond leads Rebecca over to the spirit phone.
My final work. In the end, I surpassed them all.
I don't understand.
The first open communication network with the afterlife. Edison was working on one too when he died. He never got his to work. I knew that if I could, my name could eclipse his for all eternity.
So what happened?
I died.
Oh.
But then, the strangest thing happened. I found that my machine had, after a fashion, succeeded. Not the communication, but perhaps the first step. I had created a magnetic field that could catch the spirits of the deceased before they passed on, kept them here with the possibility of communication. That's why I'm here. That's why we're all still here.
Hammond looks away dramatically.
Oh, but it's all in jeopardy now. Tomorrow night, a solar storm will destabilize the magnetic field and destroy it forever. All this will be lost. Unless... At midnight, at the height of the storm, my magnetic field could disappear. Or we could strengthen it, grab a hold of the power, and absorb it, siphon it off. We could not only seal the magnetic field, making our residence here permanent, but the amount of shear force could be used to tear open a channel between here and there, finally making communication possible between the living and the dead.
That sounds a little bit insane.
If I told you 2 nights ago that you'd be standing here in this castle with me, wouldn't that have sounded a little insane too? Everything is impossible until it isn't. That's what invention is.
Why are you telling me this?
He steps close, takes her hands in his.
In order to open the channel, at the very moment when the magnetic fields are shifting, we'd have to capture the life force of someone in transition. A life force that could serve as the bridge between this side and the other.
Oh.
You could come live here with me full time. Leave behind the ugly, the unjust world outside. Share my world with me. You'd love it here.
You want me to...
Just consider it. What do you have to go back to? Here, everything is taken care of, carefree. Here you will always be known as the greatest actress who ever lived.
It would never be true, though, would it?
Well, what is fame in the first place except for a group of people deciding that it is so? It wouldn't be only in here, though. Out there, we would become more. More than anything even you ever dreamed. The first to communicate from the beyond. Our names would be known across the globe. More renowned than anyone ever in history.
But I would have to...
To die? Rebecca? It's not death I'm offering you. It's immortality.
Rebecca can't quite manage to grasp any cogent thought.
It would be my great honor, privilege, and pleasure to share the rest of eternity with you.
Hi.
Don't answer now. We only have one chance. Tomorrow at midnight. Until then, my fate, our fates, rest in your hands.
Giving her one last smile, he walks out of the room. Rebecca stands alone, frozen, exhilarated, horrified. A few hours later, back in the light of day, back in the Market Basket parking lot, Rebecca sits on the bumper of her car eating another burrito. This time she's in a daze, staring around at things as though the real world no longer computes. Her phone buzzes. It's Chloe. Panicked, she sends the call to voicemail. After a moment, a voicemail comes through.
Rebecca! It's Chloe. Wow. I have to say I was kind of surprised to hear from you.
Rebecca sits up straighter.
Nobody's heard from you in quite a while. We'd all been starting to get a little worried about you. Anyway, I'm excited that you're coming to LA. We'll have to hang out. About staying with us, I thought I heard a while ago that you were pregnant, which is so exciting. Congratulations. But do you have a baby? Are you due soon?
Rebecca's face is falling, her breath growing shallow.
Anyway, this plan sounds a little complicated. Maybe you could call me back. I would really love to hear how you are.
Rebecca switches off the voicemail abruptly. She tries to slow down her panicked breath. Then she looks down at her pregnant belly and, trembling, reaches down to touch it. As her hand makes contact with her belly, she winces, but forces herself to keep her hand there. Slowly, she begins to rub her belly, caressing it, in the way that pregnant women do, but that she hasn't before.
You're going to take it all the way, right?
Your mom would be so proud of you.
It was the best advice that anyone ever gave me.
Mama! After a moment, it becomes too much, and Rebecca pulls her hand away, looking off into the distance again. Her eyes come into focus on a pawn shop next to Market Basket. Rebecca stands in front of the pawn shop, holding her mother's engagement ring, looking at it, willing herself to go in.
Becca?
Rebecca doesn't hear, lost in her inner cacophony of voices.
Rebecca!
Rebecca looks up and discovers Barbara, holding shopping bags beside her. Barbara sees the ring.
What's that?
It's my mother's.
Rebecca pockets the ring, then leans against the building wall, covering her face in her hands, and slumps down into a sort of a crouch.
I don't know what I'm doing.
Barbara sets down her groceries, crouches beside Rebecca, and puts her hand on her back.
Oh, sweetheart. Nobody's ever ready to become a mom. It's normal to be scared.
I don't just mean that. Everything I own is in my car right now, Barb. Literally, I don't have enough money to get to LA. I don't have anywhere to stay if I do get to LA. I actually don't have anywhere to stay at all, actually, and...
Rebecca gestures to her belly.
Fuck.
Rebecca covers her face in her hands again. Barbara genuinely stunned by this information, kindly rubs Rebecca's back.
You'll figure it out. We're all just out here dealing with reality.
Later that day, Rebecca and Dave sit at his shabby kitchen table drinking tea. Rebecca takes the ring box out of her pocket and slides it across the table to Dave.
She left it to you.
I don't want it. I was going to sell it, but...
Do you need money?
They look at each other. So much to say. Where to even begin?
Well, you could have just asked me.
I couldn't.
Well, I'll keep it safe for you.
Dave puts the ring in his pocket.
You could stay here, you know. Have the baby, get back on your feet. We could do our best to get it right this time. Do better for...
He indicates the child in her belly. Rebecca still says nothing, and this gives him the courage to go on.
I'm set to retire next year, but I feel good to keep on working. I bet I could get you on my health insurance. And you know, the North Shore Community Theater has really come a long way since you were a kid. Their plays are very good now.
This last idea visibly slices Rebecca open.
That's a very generous offer, Dad, but I just feel like it would be history repeating itself.
Becca, those last years with your mom, it was like trying to catch water in my hands. I know you think there was more I could have done, but she'd already made her choice. You're still going to L.A.?
I don't know.
Well, it's never too late for dreams to come true.
You know, that is what they always say about actresses in Hollywood. The older, the better, really.
Rebecca's phone buzzes. She looks down at it.
Everything all right?
Oh, yeah. Barbara wants me to come to this mommy party tonight.
You should go. Oh, she loves you so much. She always thought the sun shone out of your arse. Plus, it might not be a bad idea for you to talk to some other moms. Find out if it's really as bad as you think.
Later, Rebecca gingerly pushes the door of her childhood bedroom open and steps inside. Stuffed animals line high shelves around the room. The bed sports a frilly sheet set embroidered with the faded words, "You're a star." Rebecca's gaze lands on the vanity, where a plastic Oscar statuette sits in front of the mirror. Picking up the fake statuette, she winces as she sees the inscribed base, "Rebecca Lewis, Best Actress." Rebecca looks in the mirror. A tired 37-year-old pregnant woman looks back. Feeling uninspired but determined, Rebecca drives down the windy wooded road. Hammond Castle looms large on her left. She notices her mother's memorial cross in the woods on her right. She looks at neither of them, but drives forward. The sky is turning strange as the solar storm arrives. Rebecca stands outside Barbara's house carrying a bouquet of flowers. Barbara appears, looking harried but happy, holding baby Josh.
Becca, you came!
She sees the flowers.
Oh my God, you're so sweet.
Barbara leads Rebecca into a room jam-packed with women, some with babies, some without, having a blast. A little while later, Barbara, Audrey, Gigi, Maria, and Rebecca are in the kitchen talking, babies on hips.
Yeah, and my agent's really excited. He's been getting a lot of interest. There's kind of a lot of buzz, so I just decided that it's time.
Barbara shoots Rebecca a little glance, knowing this is only part of the story.
I always wanted to go to Los Angeles. I feel like it suits my personality.
It does.
As they talk, Audrey's baby Michelle starts reaching out her chubby arms for Rebecca.
Oh God, that is so cute. Do you want to hold her?
Oh. Sure.
Audrey hands the baby to Rebecca, who is not totally sure what to do, but eventually finds a good holding position, propping the baby sort of on and against her own pregnant belly. Audrey, Gigi, Maria, and Barbara return to talking, but Rebecca's focus is now taken up with this little baby who is staring up at her, utterly transfixed. Rebecca stares back, feeling the weight of her, taking in the little features, the smell of her.
Oh, she loves you.
Rebecca wince laughs as the baby nestles her head against Rebecca's neck. It is an overwhelming feeling.
Pretty nice, huh?
Yeah.
That smell. Every time I think I'm done, I catch a whiff of some baby, and whew.
You're a natural.
Becca's going to be a great mom.
Rebecca smiles uncomfortably.
Remember how we used to fantasize about having our kids together? That they'd grow up together and eventually get married.
Barbara laughs fondly. Rebecca forces a smile.
Are you going to breastfeed? It's very important that you breastfeed for at least the first 2 years.
Rebecca catches sight of Bronwen coming into the house carrying bags of supplies.
Oh my God. Get ready for the incense.
I know. Isn't she neat?
She's incredible. She was my doula.
She offered to come do some kind of winter solstice solar storm combo ceremony.
Rebecca is not excited about this.
It's supposed to be very powerful.
An hour later, the lights have been dimmed, the room lit by candles, and the women are now clustered around Bronwen, who has a lacy scarf draped over her head, a candle cluster in front of her, and seems to be in the midst of summoning something. Rebecca is seated as far away as possible.
Shh. 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 Sisters, how lucky are we to be here, witnessing Earth's first solar storm in 70 years, and on the night of a new moon, and the winter solstice.
Most of the women are into this, looking solemn, or slyly giggling about it to varying degrees.
Tonight, we cast everything that no longer serves us into the flame, all our pain, all our fear. Time to begin anew, birth and rebirth.
Bronwen opens her eyes and looks directly at Rebecca.
Before we begin, I'd like us to send up a blessing for someone very special here tonight.
Oh, please don't.
A daughter of this very earth, a daughter of one of our most beloved sisters, about to bear a daughter of her own.
Rebecca stares daggers at Bronwen, who is unperturbed.
May you protect our sister, Rebecca. Keep her safe from the mental illness that took her mother from us much too soon, and help her to release her anger and find forgiveness for her father, understanding that her pain is not his fault.
Bronwen sneaks a glance out of one eye at Rebecca, who is looking like she might commit murder.
In the charge of the goddess!
In the charge of the goddess! Happy for the escape, Rebecca looks at her phone. Damien from CGA Talent is calling her. Vibrating with excitement, Rebecca gets up and maneuvers her way out of the room.
I'm so sorry. I have to pee.
Rebecca quickly shuts the bathroom door behind her and answers the phone.
Hello? Damien?
Hi, Rebecca.
Hi, how are you?
Oh, I'm good. Thanks for asking.
I assume you got my messages.
I did. I got all of them.
Great. So you know I'll be in LA starting next week.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of why I'm calling.
Oh, okay.
I don't think you should come out here right now, Rebecca. The timing's not great.
Okay, but I'm really feeling like it's time. I mean, after Savannah, you said... I mean, we don't want to lose momentum, right?
Would you say we have momentum, Rebecca?
Rebecca's face goes white.
Yes?
Look, I got a phone call today from Zach Martin's people. Apparently stories have been getting back to them about some things you've been saying.
All remaining blood goes out of Rebecca's face.
Oh?
Anyway, they reached out to offer you a very generous amount of money as a gift in appreciation for the great work you did in Savannah. Under the circumstances, I would say that this is a very generous offer on their part, particularly since all they're asking for in exchange is that you sign an NDA.
An NDA?
Yup. You would legally agree to never speak Zach Martin's name, either directly or by implication, in public or private again.
I'm sorry, what?
It's very standard.
That's insane.
Is it?
Yes.
Well, those are their terms. I don't imagine that they're open to changing them.
I mean, what if I took him to court?
You mean, apart from the fact that no one would ever hire you ever again?
Yeah.
I don't think you have the resources to take on Zach Martin. Okay, and while I have you on the phone, I do have some other tricky news. We've been going through the CGA roster and doing some scrubbing, it's always a terribly painful process, but we've decided we just can't represent you anymore. We're not really doing very much for you anyway right now, so we feel like it's better to give you the space to fly free.
Damien.
You're going to have a baby to take care of soon anyway. And
no.
I have to be honest, I've seen this over and over again with women. You're laser focused, but then you have a kid and you
Damien,
just...
being an actress is the only thing I've ever wanted. It's the thing I was put here to do. You saw that at the beginning. You said you saw what I could be.
And we gave it our best shot. The reality is, Rebecca, that I have a stack of headshots here from 200 younger versions of you. This is a business. I have to put my energy into that.
Rebecca hangs up the phone, sagging against the back of the toilet. Rebecca, looking crazed, tries to sneak from the bathroom to the front door unseen, but Barbara catches her.
There you are.
Barbara tries to corral Rebecca into an adjacent room, while Rebecca searches frantically for any viable excuse to leave. Barbara wins this battle and leads Rebecca into a room where the television is on, a video paused. They are alone.
Remember how I told you? My mom found this tape.
Barb, I have to go.
Oh, come on. It's like 4 minutes.
No.
Barbara hits play. On screen, 9-year-old Rebecca is on stage during a school play. She is wearing a strange white and black sequin jacket and steps up with earnest determination into the spotlight.
Please don't do this.
Memory, all alone in the moonlight. I remember the old days. I was beautiful.
She has a reasonably good voice for a 9-year-old, but she's fairly pitchy, her voice only occasionally hitting the actual notes. Grown Rebecca covers her face.
Oh my God.
Come on.
No, I really can't watch this.
Look.
Barbara pries Rebecca's hand away from her face so Rebecca has to see.
Look how happy you are up there. I know you're having a rough patch, but you're gonna get through it. So many people get stuck here, but you've already gotten out. You're doing the thing you always said you were gonna do. And like you were telling us out there, your agent is so excited you're getting all this buzz, you just have to get to LA. And I talked to Peter, and we would be happy to lend you the money.
Barb.
No, we would.
Barb.
Becca!
Stop!
Barbara looks properly hurt. Rebecca can't breathe.
What time is it?
What? 10, I think.
I have
maybe
to go.
Are you okay?
Yes, I'm so sorry. Thank you for inviting me and for... I have to go.
Rebecca speeds toward the castle, dangerous, barely making it around each curve. The clock reads 10:58 p.m. The sky dances with strange blue, green, purple colors. She careens into the parking lot, slams on the brakes, turns off the car, and leaps out, racing towards the castle. Hammond stands in the open doorway of the front entrance, looking out into the night. He smiles with satisfaction as he sees Rebecca hurtling down the path towards him. She stops outside the entryway.
You came.
I did.
Hammond extends his hand. She takes it. Electricity crackles between them. As she steps through the doorway, Rebecca's pregnant belly disappears once again, and her outfit transforms into the stunning deep red brocade gown she once saw on the mannequin. Atop her head sits a bejeweled tiara. Looking down, Rebecca runs her hand along her smooth-again stomach, feeling the weight of this final disappearance. Hammond lifts her chin up to meet his gaze. He is wearing the complimentary red brocade suit, topped off with a small golden crown. He beams at her, radiating intimacy and excitement.
Are you ready?
Yes.
Rebecca swells with anticipation as they walk down the hall hand in hand. They pass the door to Irene's studio, which is once again ajar. Irene looks up from her painting and sees Rebecca in the gown. Irene scoffs slightly and then goes back to her canvas.
Come along.
Hammond and Rebecca reach the entrance of the great hall, where a sea of ghosts waits solemnly for their arrival. The feeling is grander and more somber than before. All are dressed in immaculate white. The ghosts are crackling strangely now, like a negative about to fall apart. Every face in the room turns to Hammond and Rebecca, their expressions a mixture of adoration and reverence.
I wanted to make tonight special. You don't have to worry about anything anymore.
He leads Rebecca into the crowd. Hands reach longingly towards her, as if she were Cleopatra herself.
I've never known such greatness in all my life.
Extraordinary woman.
Such generosity. We're not worthy of your kindness.
I think perhaps we are.
You are a goddess.
Rebecca.
You look beautiful.
Hammond and Rebecca reach a platform at the center of the hall, where the spirit phone has been staged. The huge concentric rings glisten around a central platform meant for a human to stand on.
You are sure that this will work?
How could you think I could risk it, even if I had a shadow of a doubt?
What happens now?
All your dreams come true.
They step up onto the platform together and turn towards the crowd.
Tonight, my friends, we make history. After this day, our names will be forever engraved upon the very soul of time. Not only will we harness nature's power and ensure that our collective genius is preserved here in this castle for all eternity, but we will bend the will of God, become the first in the history of mankind to make contact from beyond. If you all thought you were big deals before tonight, just you wait until after. But, as you all know, none of this would be possible without the compassion, the nobility, the generosity, the courage of Miss Rebecca Lewis.
Rebecca gazes out at the sea of admiring faces shouting just for her. This is the feeling she's wanted her entire life.
But before that hour, the other gift you've been waiting all night to receive. A performance from the great, the only Miss Lewis, honoring us here in our very own castle. Go on, make it so.
What?
Make them know for all time who you are. Ladies and gentlemen, Rebecca Lewis!
Yes!
Hammond steps back grandly, giving her the stage, and the crowd applauds. Rebecca looks around at all of the faces, glittering with anticipation.
I didn't prepare anything.
Well, please, go on. We've been waiting for you. Please.
Rebecca, looking desperately around for an idea, sees the black cat sitting on the balcony banister. Its green eyes glitter from the blackness. An idea. No. Well, what else?
Memory.
She looks around at the crowd. Okay. This might be okay.
All alone in the moonlight.
The crowd is confused, but listening.
I can smile at the old days. I was beautiful then.
As she sings, the meaning of the words begin to hit her, and her self-consciousness begins to fade.
Happiness was. Let the memory live again.
She's not great, but she begins to give in to the joy of singing, and the crowd becomes mesmerized.
Daybreak, I must wait for the sunrise. I must think of a new life. and I mustn't give in. When the dawn comes, tonight will be a memory too.
The ghosts whisper to one another, remembering something sacred and long ago.
That's what it was like before. I think I forgot
Out there.
I'm not alive anymore.
Another day is dawning. Touch me, it's so easy to leave.
Lost in the moment, Rebecca doesn't notice as Hammond, with a wave of his hand, materializes shackles that begin wrapping themselves around her wrists and ankles.
Touch me, you'd understand what happiness is. Look, a new day has begun.
As the song ends, Rebecca comes back to herself, flushed and exhilarated. She looks out into the crowd. They've been utterly entranced. She smiles.
Do you remember, Walt, what it felt like to be alive?
Hearing this, Rebecca looks over at Walt, who is looking at her intensely, conflicted.
Rebecca, you don't...
What?
This breaks the reverie as the lights in the castle flicker violently. Rebecca looks up and realizes she's been strapped into Hammond's machine. Splayed out like Da Vinci's Vitruvian Man, she begins to panic.
Jack? Jack?
He looks at her wild-eyed and far away.
It's time!
With a snap of Hammond's fingers, the machine, with Rebecca chained to it, is suddenly atop the castle's high tower. The aurora borealis dances hugely in the sky above. Hammond sweeps around Rebecca in the machine, pushing buttons, pulling levers, single-mindedly focused on his task.
Jack?
He ignores her.
Jack! What's going on?
No reply.
Jack!
History is being made!
He pulls a final lever, and a lightning rod raises out of the top of the machine and begins to spark. The sky flashes. Rebecca looks up, terrified. Hammond finally turns to face her.
When the solar storm reaches its peak, electricity will course through these into your body. My machine will harness your life force, irreversibly stabilizing the magnetic field which keeps us all in the castle. And I will permanently open a channel of communication between the living and the dead. And Edison will be nothing.
What?
Everything we want, Rebecca, is right here at our fingertips.
He grins at her, crazed, and goes back to fiddling with the machine's dials. Rebecca, panicking more and more, tests her shackles, which she quickly discovers are immovable. She then notices that Barrymore, Walt, and Cardinal Cushing are now also on the roof, gathered around her.
Aren't you excited?
I'm not sure about this.
Well, you probably should have thought about that earlier.
I'm giving you so much more than you could have dreamed, Rebecca. More than greatness. You and I, we will be like gods. Cardinal Cushing, the time.
3 minutes.
Cardinal Cushing, you wanted this destroyed.
Oh, yes. Ha. Well, I didn't have all the information at that point. Turns out, there really aren't any other options for an afterlife. This really is all there is.
He checks his watch.
Closer and closer now.
Help! Help!
Hammond fiddles with his dials, looking up at the sky.
You're going to do what so many cannot, Rebecca. You're going to reach out and seize what you want.
Rebecca breathes heavily, fearfully, trying to find the courage for this. Then, all of a sudden, Rebecca's body begins to change. The beautiful dress disappears. Her hair tumbles down, messy once more. Her pregnant belly begins to grow back.
No.
It has to be like this. 2 lives are more powerful than one.
No! Rebecca bucks violently against the restraints, but there is no chance of escaping them.
Are you worried about your baby? You weren't that worried when I made it disappear before.
Rebecca nearly chokes on the truth of this.
2 minutes!
The men prickle with new levels of excitement and anticipation.
You didn't say it would be like this. You just said I had to stay.
Perhaps you're misremembering.
What?
Don't try to stop this. You can't. It's bigger than you. Bigger than anything.
Rebecca bucks harder and harder against the restraints as they refuse to budge.
Miss Lewis, I am taking your life, a life in which you achieved nothing, and delivering you a legacy the greatest men in history would envy. You could show a little bit of gratitude.
My life isn't nothing.
If you believed that for a second, you wouldn't be here on this roof.
My life is worth...
Worth what? Worth more than all those people down there? The greatest minds of the century? You would let them all disappear in the name of an unmarried, unremarkable, pregnant, middle-aged actress?
60 seconds!
Hammond returns to his dials.
Gentlemen, prepare yourselves!
Rebecca hangs limp against her restraints. Barrymore slaps Walt heartily on the back. Walt looks over at Rebecca, more than a little troubled. They lock eyes. Rebecca's pleading.
20 seconds!
Walt looks away, ashamed.
Wait.
The ghosts flicker more aggressively, but something begins to click together in Rebecca's mind. She looks at their pale, insubstantial bodies and down at the solidness of her own.
I'm alive.
What?
10, 9, 8, 7,
You're dead.
6,
You're confused.
4, 3, 2.
You are dead and I am alive!
All of a sudden, Rebecca's hands and legs pass through the restraints and she tumbles forward to the ground. Everyone freezes, stunned. Rebecca, Hammond, the ghosts, then pandemonium. Rebecca hauls herself to her feet. Hammond scrambles to grab her but misses. Rebecca turns and races to the door. The ghosts, confused, step out of her way. As Rebecca reaches the doorway, Hammond appears in front of her, blocking it, spitting with rage and desperation.
There still might be time!
Rebecca hesitates only briefly.
You can't do this! You need me!
Actually, I don't.
Rebecca walks directly through him and into the castle. Hammond screams of outrage, pain, and despair echo down the stone walls. Rebecca walks through the castle as if in a dream. Ghosts look up at her with shock, fear, wonderment. One by one, they begin to blur around the edges. Some seem resigned, even curious. Rebecca watches them all impassive. The ghosts crackle, spark, and then fade away. Rebecca passes Irene's studio. Irene looks up and sees her.
Oh?
Irene sets down her brush calmly.
What am I supposed to do?
Irene smiles lightly at Rebecca, then gives a little shrug, as though nothing could matter less, just as she disappears. Rebecca stands alone in the room. The front door of Hammond Castle opens. Morning light streams in as Petkoff enters the lobby. Rebecca is seated across from the door, waiting calmly. She shields her eyes from the sun. John Petkoff looks only half surprised to see her.
Hello?
Hi. I fell asleep in the bathroom stall.
Oh, I see. Anything unusual happen overnight?
Nothing out of the ordinary. No. I just woke up.
She walks out of the castle. Rebecca stands on the seaside cliff, staring out at the horizon. The sunrise kisses her skin. A breeze blows gently on her face. She descends a rocky path onto the beach. She slips off her shoes, walks to the shore, and lets the cool water lap around her ankles. A tiny conical shell washes ashore beside her feet. She crouches and picks it up. It's a periwinkle.
Twinkle, twinkle, little star, How I wonder what
As Rebecca watches, a small foot emerges and slowly begins to dance.
Up above the world so high, like a diamond in the sky.
Rebecca sets the periwinkle back on the sand. It burrows under the sand and out of sight. Rebecca looks out at the waves. She breathes in. She breathes out. For this one moment, everything is impossibly beautiful.